Hello, Gaston County, and welcome to the 85 Podcast. The 85 is your Gaston County culture podcast. We talk about events and topics inside and around the Gaston County area. As you might know, my name is Zachary Brown. I'm with Cafe Content. I'm a contributor to the Gaston Gazette. I work in Gaston County and I'm your host here. To my right, on the ones and twos, as usual, my man, Joshua Chapman. How you doing today, Josh?
Everything's going awesome. Welcome, everybody, to the 4th podcast.
And to my left, Nick Dumont. Nick, you made us a website.
Right, so on the website, you can read about us and the podcast. You can contact us if you want. There's a form on there. You can listen to the episodes on the website. And then the cool thing is that you can check out weekend events on the website.
One of the things we wanted to do with this podcast is have a central location where you can see everything that's going on in Gaston County. What's the URL to that website, Nick?
You can find the website for now at bit.ly/the85pod.
We are also on Twitter at the85pod, Instagram again at the85pod, and if you want to email me, I'm at the85pod@gmail.com. We really appreciate everybody's support. I got to tell you, Gaston County is such a neighborly area. I want to shout out my man Jason. I was at Yorkchester Brewing last week, and we were talking a little bit about the 85 podcast, and he invited me to a pickup basketball game that he does every week. And I went last Monday. I played. I was mediocre.
Did you dunk?
Which is the best I can do. I did not dunk. You know, I could have, and I decided not to because I didn't want to embarrass anybody there. No, actually, they were really good and also really accepting of me not being very good. So I wanted to shout out Jason and just shout out the neighborly atmosphere we have in this county. Let's get into the rundown.
All right, it's time. Let's get down on this rundown.
Get down.
All right. First up is the Go Gaston events.
Yeah.
Then this week's High Five is on the largest parks in Gaston County. We're also going to get into what's brewing with Rivermen Director of Brewing Operations, David Gonzalez. That's something we're introducing now.
It's a new section.
And then after that, we're going to be looking inside the pages with Nick. Zach, take it away.
Let's get into these Go Gaston events. Okay, so on the 28th from 7:15 to 11 a.m. in the morning, so you got to wake up pretty early for this one, is the Run Mount Holly race. They have a 5K race and a 10K race, and this is all part of the Run Gaston race series. Also on April 28th from 1 to 6 p.m., the Jailhouse is having their first anniversary party. This is going to be really fun. They have a whiskey tasting. Your ticket gets you 2 beer tickets and access to the party. The party's going to have live music and food. It's going to be really fun. May 5th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Shield Museum, one of my favorite places, is hosting Life in Catawba Village. This is where you can learn how the Catawba Native Americans lived, how they made clothes, tools, weapons. Kind of gives you an experience of living in their village. On May 5th as well, at 4 p.m., Brews and Boots is having their craft beer festival. They're going to have 30 craft beer and cider samples. There's going to be music and food trucks in that. I first learned this from the Yorkchester Brewing Company and their owners there. They're really excited about the event. This is an annual event that happens, but this is the first time it's happening at a farm. Also on May 5th at 8:15 at Stowe Park, the Belmont downtown area is having their movies at the park. And also a series. Their first movie is going to be Coco. I've heard a lot of really good things about this movie.
It's a Disney movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Pixar
movie, yeah. And I've heard a lot of really good things about it. Lastly, on May 8th, the Gaston County Parks and Rec is going to have their pitch, hit, and run competition at the George Poston Park. The pitch, hit, and run competition is only for ages 7 and 14. So, Nick, I'm sorry you can't compete, man.
I would have won, though.
I know you would have won, and I am not very good at hitting, but I think I could compete with a 7-year-old. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe. We'll see.
Dominate.
Okay, so our high five today is a special high five. It's on the 5 largest parks in Gaston County, and I recorded it with the 2 directors of Parks and Recreation in the area. They're 2 separate organizations, but they work together, and they came in and talked to me about the 5 largest parks in Gaston County, and I think you're going to really like it.
Give me some skin, my friend.
Thank you for coming on the High Five. Thank you for coming on the 85. In front of me, I have the two directors of Parks and Recreation in Gaston County. But I know you guys have separate sections. Cam, if you don't mind, would you introduce yourself, please, sir?
Well, I'm Cam Carpenter. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Gastonia.
And Kathy, introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Kathy Hart, and I'm the Gaston County Parks and Recreation Director.
So the High Five today is the 5 largest parks in Gaston County. And we're going to go from smallest to biggest. The smallest park, number 5, is Lineberger Park.
Lineberger was renovated and had a kind of a grand reopening in 2012. We got a miniature train.
Okay.
We have a renovated swimming pool. It has a lazy river and a huge slide. We've got an outdoor basketball court, a nice new modern playground area. We also have some 2 large shelters. We have, it's kind of a trailhead for our Avon Catawba Greenway.
The Greenway, which is awesome. It's a great hiking spot as well. The amusement park part of it, there's a small train there, and
we do a lot of special events, like we have a Santa ride there, and we have a Easter Bunny ride during special events, and then but it's very popular.
Fantastic. So Lineberger is 19 acres, and it's
Correct.
number 5 on our High Five. The number 4 is Martha Rivers. The best thing about Martha Rivers Park is 58 acres, is that you guys have this playground that looks like a castle. It looks like something out of a kid's dream.
That was totally designed by kids and funded by donations and stuff, and it covers about 1 acre. That is a big attraction for that park, along with the 4 lighted soccer fields and the 4 baseball fields.
It took all my willpower not to get on that playground. I'm just going to be honest with you, okay? But Martha Rivers is our number 4 park with 58 acres. Our number 3 park, Kathy, is Dallas Park, and they still do horse activities in there, right?
We do. We have a lot of horse shows, and we have some other special events there, too.
There's a lake in the park, or beside the park. How does that work? Are you guys associated with the lake?
There's actually 3 lakes in the park, and those are stocked with fish. And one other kind of unique feature in Dallas Park, we have a historic village, 1890s historic village. We also have a operational cotton gin that we use in that park for a festival. We gin cotton. We actually take the seed out of the cotton.
It's like an operational, old town inside of this park. Our number 2 park with 242 acres is Rankin Lake Park. It was built in 1922.
We have fishing. We have the lakefront office where you can rent paddle boats, canoes, kayaks. You can fish. We also stock the lake. We have 2 corporate shelters out there, an 18-hole disc golf course.
Yeah, you buried the lead, the disc golf course. I love disc golf. I'm not very good at it, but I really love disc golf. And Charlotte is a really big area for disc golf, so it's really cool that we have an 18-hole course in Gaston County.
It is, and it's very heavily used.
So our number 1 park, our biggest park in Gaston County, George Poston Park, 328 acres of park. There's a bunch of stuff in here, Kathy. It's a dog park, mountain bike trail, horseshoe complex. Now, is this just horseshoe pits? Is there something more than just...
It looks different. It actually was built for competition level horseshoes, and we have several state tournaments out there every year.
And there's a fishing lake in there as well?
There's an 11-acre fishing lake there. We have 10 miles of natural surface trails that are used for mountain biking and hiking. And what's interesting about those trails is those were built entirely by volunteers. We're fortunate in that aspect too, and they're maintained by the volunteers as well.
If you want to volunteer for the Parks and Rec, what website can they go on to go to your specific parks?
Ours is www.cityofgastonia.com.
Gotcha. What about you, Kathy?
And ours is www.gastongov.com.
So that's our High Five this week. Kathy, Cam, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What's Brewing is a new series we're starting where we talk to breweries, winemakers, baristas, and distillers in our area. It's a taste test of both their product and how they make it. Our first What's Brewing, we are joined by David Gonzalez, who's the Director of Brewing Operations for Rivermen Brewing. It was fun to record, and I hope it's fun and interesting to listen to. David was a great sport. All right, David, thank you for coming on the 85 podcast and What's Brewing.
Thank you for having me.
David Gonzalez is the Director of Brewing Operations. David, tell us what the Director of Brewing Operations does.
Pretty much, I oversee anything to do with the brewery. So I do everything from scheduling on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, what we're going to be doing in the brewery, any kind of recipe calculations and such. I go with our head brewer, Alex Schoenthal. I track all our beers through fermentation, storage. If and when we have stuff going outside the doors, I do that too. Making sure we get all our ingredients and supplies we need. Taxes. I deal with the state and federal tax levels with our accountants and making sure.
I'm sure that's the funnest part of your job.
That's the best part. I actually just got off the phone with him 5 minutes ago.
Very nice.
So really anything to do with the beer, brewing, education.
Nice. David, you sat a set of 4 beers in front of me.
Sure.
This is called a flight, right?
It is correct.
Okay, so describe exactly what a flight is to the audience.
All right, so a flight is a newer term. I've been a professional brewer for 22 years, and I call them samplers. To me, it's a sampler, but it is considered a flight. It's the same exact thing, it's just terminology. So what a flight is, it's a sampler of different products you have. So right now we have 13 or 14 beers, 15 beers on tap. But what you do is, with us, you get 4 4-ounce samples. So it equals a pint. So you get to try 4 different beers of your choice on tap, and they got to be house made in our beers in case we ever have a guest tap or something like that, or a cider. But it's ours, and you get to try 4 different of our products. You get to choose and kind of go through them, then decide if you want to get something else, what you like, what you don't like.
Sure, and you recommend that to people who are first coming to a brewery, or especially your brewery.
Definitely, and I've tracked. I track a lot of numbers and trends, and our number 2 selling product are flights. Our number 1 is our light beer, our Shuttle Buddy Blonde Ale, and the number 2 is flights.
Okay, so we've got 4 beers here.
Yeah.
Do you usually go from light to dark?
Usually, yeah. Okay. So we got 4 of our beers, and I like to go lightest to heaviest. That does not necessarily dictate color or flavor or aroma or whatever.
Sure. So the first one we're going to try is the blonde?
Yeah, so we're going to try our Shuttle Buddy Blonde Ale. It's our lightest beer, year-round beer we make. It is a year-round. It used to be, so this is a beer that came over from our old facility. So it used to be a honey blonde. We actually used real honey in it.
What's the difference between a blonde and, say, a pilsner? Is there just ingredients difference? Or?
Yeah, there's different recipes. So this is a blonde ale, so it uses an ale yeast strain. It's fermented at a little bit of a warmer temperature, but each of the beers has a different recipe in itself that uses different grains, different hops, different yeast, ferments at different temperatures, might condition a little bit longer and such.
So the blonde is really light. It's like a beer that you can drink during the summer.
Exactly.
That type of thing.
It's light. It's a sessionable.
It's really good. At least I would say would be really good with food, because although it has a taste, it's not an overwhelming taste. Or
exactly.
You can taste the different ingredients.
It's just something there to drink while you're eating something. Yeah.
Fantastic. So what's the second one we're going to
The second one we're going to do is actually we'll go to the Loch Ness Hopster, which is right here.
This is a new beer, right?
It is a new beer. So my background is I'm more of a traditional style. I like traditional styles of beer. Alex is the mad scientist.
Okay.
So he kind of comes up and says, hey, I want to do something a little bit different. It's what we call a Scotch IPA. So we had never really heard of a Scottish IPA.
Yeah, I've never either.
But we decided to take a little bit of characteristics from our precipitation Scotch ale that we normally do, and then some characteristics from like a traditional IPA, sort of like our triple drop, and kind of blend the 2 styles together. You got a hoppy character that comes out of what you would have in the traditional IPA. We also dry hop this one with 2 different hops called Citra and Euconaut.
What is a good describing word for hoppy? It's like a...
Hoppy could be bitter.
Yeah, a bitter taste.
Yeah, so
sure.
IBU stands for International Bitterness Units.
There you go.
So what hops give the beer is bitterness, and they give flavor and aroma. So the 2 hops we use to dry hop this, the Citra gives a real citrusy character, and the Euconaut gives a little bit of a tropical flavors is what I want.
Sure. So the blonde is kind of on one side of the IBU scale.
Yeah, real low.
With your IPAs on the higher scale.
Exactly.
Right? It's very unique for sure, but you can tell the different characteristics of each beer go into this IPA, which is really cool. So what's the third beer we got?
We'll go over to the Foundation Black IPA.
All right, Foundation is my favorite beer you guys
thank
make.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the Foundation was a holdover from our original location. That was a year-round beer that...
and you guys used to be behind Alternative Beverage.
We did,
on the river, right?
So yeah, we started as a small little 2-barrel nano brewery. We had 9 bar seats. We sold that entire facility off, and we came over and built this location.
Nice.
So, yeah, there were a couple beers that Pat had on, Pat Brennan, our owner, brewmaster, my boss, had, and there were a couple that we came on board with. So the foundation was a year-round for him, black IPA, Cascadian Dark, whatever you want to call it. And we just changed one or two little mini things on it. Some malts changed a little tiny bit. And then we started dry hopping it, which means at the end of fermentation, you add more hops and you get more flavor and aroma out of it. So to me, black IPAs are one of my favorite styles too.
It's got a malty taste, and it's got that little bit of bitterness from the hops.
Yeah, definitely. To me, you get the best of both worlds. You get a dark, nice maltiness character to it, but you get the nice hoppy bitterness and aromas and flavors.
So what is the last beer of our 4-beer flight?
This is another one-off right here. This is our Almond Joygasm.
Okay.
Basically, we decided we wanted to make Almond Joy
This is going to be a challenge for me, isn't it?
Yeah, so we took our peel-out porter, which is a year-round beer, and we decided to add some almond and some chocolate and coconut
in there?
Exactly, There is coconut in there. So basically, yeah, we made it a drinkable Almond Joy.
And it's a stout.
No, this is a porter.
I'm sorry.
So it's fine. A porter is a derivative of a stout.
Do you have any brews coming up for the summer season? What is your schedule looking like for the future?
Every Monday we come out with a beer called, it's part of our First Descent series.
Okay.
So every Monday we come out with a new beer. For now, eventually that's going to change every 3 weeks or something. But right now we're just trying to fill up all our taps. So we have 20 beers on tap. We're still fairly new, or we're only about 3 or 4 months old.
Yeah.
So we don't want to shoot all of our beers out at once and fill everything up, and we want to gradually put them out. We haven't really got into our seasonal schedule as we see what kind of trends dictate what beers sell more, what sell less, what certain beers like. We know in the fall we'll do an Oktoberfest style beer.
Sure.
We have a session IPA called Edge Control that's coming out on Monday. Actually, Alex has just kegged it off right now.
We want people to come to Rivermen Brewery, but if they can't come to the brewery, what places in Gaston County do you guys pour?
Right now, just here.
Okay.
So right now we're busy enough where we are selling our beer just out of our taps. As we grow and grow and get bigger and bigger, we will gradually, very calculated, go out into the market, a handful of places in Gaston County, maybe a couple in the Charlotte region, but not a lot, very gradually, and then we'll eventually start canning. We want to do the U.S. National Whitewater Center.
Of course.
For a few reasons. Number one is our theme, Rivermen.
Yeah,
Rivermen.
That's perfect.
They want to, Pat actually is a huge kayaker, boater, and he helped design the course. And then he was a guide there for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
So we have connections there.
That's awesome.
We just need to make sure we can maintain production before we start doing that.
Sure. And one more thing I want people to know about Rivermen Brewery is come for the beer for sure. But you guys have a great food menu as well.
Thank
and
you.
a great atmosphere. You guys have really cultivated that. I really like that about your brewery.
We get as much local ingredients as we possibly can. Our chef, Jay, is amazing. Besides being a good friend of mine, he's also an amazing chef and cook.
Well, David, thank you very much for being on the 85.
Anytime.
I think the only appropriate way to end this segment is to say cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers.
I can't say enough about the food at Rivermen Brewing. Actually, when we were first planning this podcast, Josh met me at Rivermen Brewing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you remember the food we had?
The pork was on the top of the menu, and as soon as I sat down at the table, I was like, yep, I know what I want.
That's what I get.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I also got a flight, too. And,
yes.
Yeah.
Did you like their beer?
I liked all 4 of them. I had her pick which ones to give me, and they were right. I liked it. And
they're really good. And David was really nice. He picked out the flight that we had.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah, he certainly knows his stuff.
Yeah.
He picked out the flight that we had. He was introducing some beers that they're going to have in the future as well. We really appreciate Rivermen Brewing coming on What's Brewing. So our next section is going to be Inside the Pages with Nick. Nick, you got a big topic this week, man.
Yeah, so let me ask you guys a question. Are you all registered to vote?
Yes.
I am registered to vote.
So the primary election is fast approaching on May 8th, and early voting actually began last week on Thursday, April 19th. There are, of course, political races on the ballot, one for the U.S. House of Representatives, one for the North Carolina House of Reps, and another for the state Senate. But the issue that will affect Gaston County residents the most is a vote on a funding package for local schools. So the local school system wants to make capital improvement needs to 49 of the county's school buildings, and they estimate it will cost $650 million. And the first step they want to take is to request $250 million in school bonds. And with that money, they will make repairs and improve existing schools, but also build 3 new schools. Of course, that's a big question mark because we only know what one of those schools will be, which is the new Belmont Middle School. So on the ballot, the first referendum will ask if a quarter-cent sales tax hike should be implemented. This will generate about $6 million a year to repay the debt from the bond. And the second referendum asks whether that bond should be issued or not. There's a lot of nuance and detail that goes along with the bond issue, and the Gazette, spearheaded by education reporter Eric Wildstein, has done some fantastic reporting. He wrote a huge election primer that ran last Sunday, I believe, which has a breakdown of the issues, where to vote, a copy of the ballot, and a few other things. But if you want to read all our reporting so you can get informed, just Google Gaston County School Bond Gaston Gazette, and that should pull up all the articles we've written. There's a lot to digest, so make sure you read all those articles so you're up to date.
For sure, and it's very important to vote nationally, but it's just as important, maybe even a little more important, to vote locally as well.
Probably more important just because the turnout is so much lower, yeah.
Yeah, because it affects your day-to-day more. And the 85 Podcast is not a political podcast. We don't care how you vote. We just want you to vote. We want you to be involved in what's going on in our county. We really appreciate that, Nick. I'm going to look that up myself. I hope our listeners do as well. Lastly, I really want to thank everybody who helped us with the episode this week. Kathy Hart and Cam Carpenter, who are the directors of Parks and Recreation in our area, helped me out with the high five. David Gonzalez from Rivermen Brewing helped me out with the What's Brewing. But mostly, I want to thank the residents and the people who listen to our podcast. We couldn't do it without you guys. Again, if you want to follow us, we're on Instagram at the85pod. Also Twitter at the85pod. If you want to email me, it's the85pod@gmail.com. Say goodbye, Josh.
Goodbye, Josh.
Say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye, Gaston County. Have a great day.